Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyaptadehaaya Dakshinamurtaye namaha Gukarastvandakaro vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara nirodhitvat Gururitya vidhiyate Sadashiva samarambham Shankaracharya madhyamam Asmadacharya paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So it's been 3 weeks, quite a long time I was away for 1 week, and last week we had this camera problem, which I think has been solved. Thanks very much to the really a very tireless effort by Raj Paripatyadar. We actually got ourselves a new camera, and I understand that this has a built-in mic, and on the Saturday classes I found out that the sound worked well, and so the connection or disconnection to a wire doesn't occur. And it has some other advantages, and the Wi-Fi system also has been upgraded, so hopefully we are back on track. So having being absent for 3 weeks, it might be good to just retrace exactly where we are. So the concept, as we are discussing, as you know, is the nature of gaining this Brahma Vidya. And praptasya praptihi eva, it is really an acquisition of the knowledge which is already there but not quite understood. And so it might be good to look at the stages with which our complete freedom from all problems, because that is exactly what we all want, which is the most common. We may have different areas of success, different definitions of what we want, different personalities. But if you look at the underlying thing that we are all looking for, is we do not want any dependency on anything. We want to be completely independent and completely happy. This is the objective. And what Vedanta points out is that it is not only possible, it must be done while you are alive in living. Cannot be done when you are in heaven or hell or any other place or dead or whatever, it doesn't matter. While you are a living being, you need to understand this, that it can be done. This is what it says. So this being the case, the understanding of the Brahma Vidya one can understand to be in 3 stages. Roughly. There can be many more that can be segmented, sub-segmented, but 3 main segments. One is ajnanam, total ignorance about the fact that I am fundamentally free. Ajnana. Okay? Then the second stage is through the kindness of the Shruti, the spiritual knowledge which is enshrined in the Vedas, and also the deserving nature of ourselves, these 2 combinations, something happens where the possibility of finding this freedom while we are living becomes real. The possibility becomes real. So this is the second stage. And the third stage is where the possibility becomes a reality. So the three stages can be classified as ajnanam, paroksha jnanam, and aparoksha jnanam. So paroksha jnanam means some knowledge, but the knowledge is of the nature where even though I have shraddha that it exists, but I don't see it. You know, it's a little bit like if somebody gives you a brochure about a wonderful sea resort that you had never heard of before. And you were told, have you ever, I remember this incident comes to my mind. I was working for HP and one of my woman colleagues, a very senior colleague, I met her for a party and not for a party, but for a meeting. And I was asking her, where were you? I understand you were out somewhere. She says, oh yes, my husband and I went on a vacation to Belize. Belize, Belize. So I said, where? She says, Belize. Haven't you heard of Belize? I said, no, I've never heard of Belize. And in those days, we didn't have internet and Google and so on right away. But you have ways to find out. And I don't remember sure how I did it, but I really researched where Belize was. And she actually described it to me. She says I think it's in South America, not North America, but south of the border, South America. And I believe it's a country, if I'm not sure. Maybe it's a city, I'm still not sure. And it is supposed to be very, very beautiful, very safe. And she says, oh, you've got to go there. And so this was a knowledge created by her in the form of an indirect introduction. And I had full faith, full shraddha that my colleague was not putting me on. This was something that she had seen and I just didn't know about it, but it was true, but not my experience. If I had decided to take up her suggestion and go there, then I would have said, yes, this is a wonderful place. Like it happened in Hawaii, for Hawaii. For a number of years, I had no idea what Hawaii was. And then some neighbors said, you've got to go there. And there we saw some brochures and so on. And finally, we went there. So 3 stages: no knowledge, partial knowledge, and full knowledge. Another way to look at that is the partial knowledge can be seen to be tatastha lakshanam, as we talked about in the Brahma Sutra class the other day, on last Saturday. So tatastha lakshanam, yato va imani bhutani jayante, yat bhutani sthiti karoti, and then laya karoti. And so from whom everything is born, from whom it stays, and into which it dissolves, like an ocean and the waves. This would be called tatastha lakshana. So it was talking about the content of the ocean, which is water, which is different from the waves, but really not different from the waves. And the whole idea of the water, which stays constant, from which all of the forms and names come and dissolve, is the Tatastha Lakshana. But then from the Tatastha Lakshana comes Swarupa Lakshana. Because Tatastha Lakshana means incidental, not intrinsic. So the waviness is incidental. You don't have to have a water with waves. A glass sitting here, glass of water has no waves. So you cannot say that this is a different water. I mean, of course it is. In this case, it's fresh water versus ocean water. But even in ocean water, supposing you put it in a pan and you don't see any waves. So you say, I thought you were talking about waves. No, waves was incidental. So the stages there in that manner are Karya Karana, understanding of Karya Karana. Karya Karana means the relationship of effect and cause. Then understanding that Karya can be, doesn't have to be, but can be an incidental quality of the Karana. So wave is an incidental quality of the ocean, not an intrinsic quality of the ocean. But it helps very much to know even the incidental quality which takes me to Swarupa Lakshanam, its intrinsic nature. So that's another way of looking at it, apart from Ajnanam, then Paroksha Jnanam, and then Aparoksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam means something which is true but away from me. And Aparoksha Jnanam means like a berry in your hand and it says, that is me. Yes, like a berry. This is an important thing. In fact, that is a central theme of what we are going to do in Kenopanishad. So it's not like a visible thing in front of you, but like a visible thing. Means that it is as sure. How the berry in your hand is absolutely definite, the definiteness of it. Similarly, the definiteness of Aparoksha Jnanam will be there. So these are the three stages. Okay? And so here the middle stage, the second stage, which is Paroksha Jnanam, is an important stage because it takes me from floundering in my life, not knowing exactly what life is all about, where am I going, what is my future, how do I become a little bit more in control of myself. All those kinds of things happen with the Shruti and myself coming together. How it happens, we don't know. Somebody just saying, please, attend these classes. Somebody just recommending it. All your own something that takes you. When the right time comes, Ishvara appears to you in the form of this teaching. And if you pursue it, if you don't allow this chance to go away, if you really, because this doesn't happen that easily, but if you pursue this chance and look into it, wonderful things happen. And the wonderful things that happen are given by an introduction to yourself by the Shruti. And in this introduction, so what happens is that it just sounds very real, very clear. This is the quality of Vedanta, of the Shraddha in it. There is no reason to flounder anymore. It becomes very real. But at the same time, you don't have an enduring experience. You may get flashes of this freedom, of this purnatvam, but really speaking, it does not stay with you. That is our experience. But even a glimpse gives you a certainty that it is there. And so this is the paroksha jnanam that happens. And in some simple examples like the credit card being lost, I thinking that the credit card might be lost, the knowledge that I was here when I used it and I have not gone out since then is like the Shruti. From that point on, I don't doubt it. I'm not floundering for it anymore. I haven't found it yet, but I have some resolution that it is very close to me. But in a more complex case about the analysis of my life, where am I going? What's happening to me? You need to have a guru. And here the Shruti is the guru who can come to you and say, yes, all is not confusion. There is some sense behind all this, and let's look into that together. And then we have various means, and though we went over this last time when we met, where all the Upanishads, because it's a complex issue for us. The issue itself is not complex, it's very simple. But we make it complex because of our doubts. It has to be approached from different standpoints. So, for example, you have to understand from the three basic aspects of the truth about yourself, which is Sat Chit Ananda. There I always exist. Never non-existing Satyam is something that I have to appreciate, and there are Shruti Vakyas and Upanishads that specialize in doing so. Then the second one is Jnanam. I may be there, but I am not knowledgeable. I don't know for sure. So then there are Shruti Vakyas and Upanishads that specialize. It's not as though they are compartmentalized, no. But they specialize in clarifying the Jnanam aspects of yourself. And of course, the most important one is Ananda. Satchid Anandaha Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So the Anantam and Ananda, we are the same. And that is the last one to open its truths to you. Not as simple as the first two. But you have to go through this step by step. First Sat, then Chit, and then Ananda. But every time, and as you go through it, your Shraddha and your understanding of the certainty of it increases. And so you know this is the right direction that I'm going. And so the difference between Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam gets bridged. Just on the side of it, as you know, so Swami Vidyaranya has segmented his 15 chapters of Panchadashi in those three segments. So the first 5 chapters are specializing in Sat, the second 5 chapters on Chit, and the last 5 chapters on Ananda. And as we had envisioned as part of this class, we will probably, it's very difficult to do the whole thing in these weekly classes, but in the limited time, we will go into the last 5 sections. on the Ananda. Again, not verse by verse, but condense it. Okay, so that's the path we are going. Okay, so Kena Upanishad. So let's look at the details of that and how it helps us. So as we study this very important Upanishad, one thing I would like to suggest to you as an advice is, as we are unfolding the truths contained in the Kena Upanishad, I would suggest to you, do not look upon it as something that is in the books and that I will relate to it as a personal experience later. Let me first understand the academic part of it. So, which is an easy thing to do, and you just postpone things by doing so. What I would suggest to you is that as the teaching unfolds, see that applying to you right away. And again, there's no guarantee that you will immediately get it, but you will. So eventually you will get it. So that's my advice to you, that as the teaching unfolds, see it as a description of you and I, not just some academic thing which is written in a book. That'd be my advice to you. And so with that, let us go into the unfolding of the truth. So the Kena Upanishad here, again, is the one that gives you Paroksha Jnanam initially and Aparoksha Jnanam eventually. And all of that teaching will be done in the first chapter and the first 4 verses of the second chapter. So a condensed course of this we will get into. Okay. So this Upanishad is called Kena Upanishad. Kena Upanishad. So with the Sandhi it becomes Kenopanishad. So Kena means by whom. By whom. So it's a third case. So when you talk about something and you say, this was given to me. So you can ask, by whom? Who gave it to you? So that is the fundamental concept behind the name Kena Upanishad. By whom Upanishad? You can call it the by whom Upanishad. And so here, as I mentioned earlier, different Upanishads employ different techniques to arrive at the same truth from different angles. Sat, Chit, Ananda, etc., etc., and how the Viveka should be done. Like, for example, in Taittiriya, the Panchakosha Viveka is the hallmark of Taittiriya. In the Kena Upanishad, it is Karya Karana Vichara. Karya Karana Vichara. Cause and effect. Effect and cause. Karya means effect. Karana means cause. Karya Karana Vichara. That is the fundamental building block which is utilized in Kena Upanishad, which is part of Samaveda, as we went through last time. So here, the very first verse signifies exactly what this Karya Karana Vichara is. And so we kind of enunciated all the verses last week, I remember. But let me just quickly go through and talk about the first verse. Let's start with that. So, the first verse, as you know, says, Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha Kena pranaf pratamaf praiti yuktaha Kene shitam vacham imam vadanti Chakshuh shrotram kau devo yunakti. So it says, Kena ishitam patati preshitam manaha. So these are all translations given by Swami Paramarthananda, very, very close to what Swami Dayananda ji had given. And so we had used this book, or we had, I wouldn't say use the book, I don't like to use that, but we had taken advantage of these translations in a class that was taught, about 7, 8, 9 years ago in Arsha Vidya Center. And we had published this book with Swami Paramarthananda's permission. So these translations are given by him alone. Ishitam kena manaha patati. Will by whom does the mind work? As though he says, as directed by whom, it is forced, not forced but utilized. By whom? By the cause of whom? That's very simple. One thing to keep in mind as we study these verses is that the entire cosmos is the projection of Ishvara's will, a manifestation of his presence. The entire cosmos, no matter where you go, at what time and what place, it is nothing but the manifestation of Ishvara, who is infinity. There's no boundaries to his presence. Infinity, not bound by time, not bound by place, not bound by any vastu. Infinite. Only one person. That is Ishvara. One without a second. Ekam vid advitiyam Brahman. And the entire cosmos is but a manifestation of that. It's as though there is an infinite ocean. You can really, this is a good way to look at it. So it is an infinite ocean of consciousness, pure consciousness, Sakshi Bhava. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. I am, I know, and I have no limits. This is the Swarupa Lakshanam of Ishvara, of Brahman. Totally free of any limitations of anything. And the entire cosmos is nothing but an expression of that fundamental truth. So imagine this to be an infinite ocean of consciousness. And a consciousness which is self-existing and self-effulgent, not dependent on anything. And the entire manifestation of the cosmos is nothing but like waves of the ocean. You and I are really the same. We are wavelets in the entire creation. And wavelets in the sense that we are the incidental karya of the intrinsic karana. So again, the analogy to an ocean and the waves. Each wave is an incidental karya, effect of the intrinsic karana, which is water. And so the entire creation, consisting of you, I, others, things, time, etc., is nothing but a manifestation of this unchanging, infinite reality, which is Brahman, which is Ishvara. This is what is going on. It's interesting. I think in the modern the modern world where we have the electricity, the man-made electricity, going through the various types of appliances and making them work, making them manifest the power, because electricity is called power. A very appropriate word, really, power. Even, for example, supposing you don't have electricity but you have a battery. So you can say battery power. So I'm proud to say, Android phone is powered. So power, or let's go back to the electricity, has some very interesting qualities. And the quality is that it can power up a variety of different appliances. One appliance can heat up the air, another appliance can cool the air, both powered by the same electricity. So the manifestations of the power vary, but the power remains the same. So between electricity and the appliance, there is a karya-karana bhava, karya-karana relationship. The electricity is the cause and the appliances are the effect, in another way of looking at it. So if we see that logic, then these verses can make sense. Kena ishitam patati preshitam manaha. It would be like saying, it would be asking, how does this appliance work? And this is an interesting thing, because the very question underscores a mature mind. This is an important thing to see. So the very beginning question, which is presented by the Upanishad, points out that it is not automatic that you will ask this question. Like, for example, even in our lives, A lot of people will just go through looking at, not people, but let's say certainly children. So at a certain, up to a certain stage, the children would not bother about how this lamp is lighting up. Who powers this lamp? Is any child going to just ask this? Because they turn the light on and turn the light off, and they go about it as though, yeah, that's okay. But it's very possible that at a certain stage, like it happens to that it happened to Isaac Newton, because a apple fell on his head. He was sitting underneath a tree, and instead of just brushing it off as an incident, his inquisitive nature started to wonder, how does the apple fall down? Why doesn't it go sideways? Why only down? What is the power that makes an apple go down? I want to look into that. And so he started to investigate the gravitational forces. So similarly here, any other person can immediately, either the teacher can say that, or the student himself would say, himself or herself will say, I wonder what powers these things. Let me turn it off, and the lamp is gone. Turn it on again, and it comes back. What is it? What is electricity? I want to understand electricity. What is the cause of it? So such a student is a more mature student than a simple accept what you see in front of you and don't have to ask anymore. So from a spiritual standpoint, a more maturity standpoint, this is an important beginning. Kena ishitam patati preshitam manaha. Who makes, because we can I remember when I first also got introduced to this and so on, I said, I don't understand why anybody's asking. The mind works. I'm turning right, I'm turning left, and I'm opening my eyes, closing the eyes, whatever it is, it happens. What's the sense of saying who makes this turn right? Who makes it turn left? Is there some power that makes the eyes go? It doesn't happen. It should be asked. At some point in time, it should be asked. And and so what we should do is to not dismiss it, but to really follow the maturity of the questioner, not questionnaire, but questioner, as to why is he asking this? Maybe I should ask the same thing. And yes, I should be asking. I should be asking. And so this is the Karya Karana Bhava, which is the central theme of Kenopanishad. So now we can go a little bit faster. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. Then again, Kena pranaha pratamaha praiti yuktaha. He says, how does the main prana? And so here, of course, again, it's a very informed student who has studied the matter. It says prana has 5 different sub-functions: prana, apana, udana, vyana, etc. And so the main prana, which is the main one which encompasses all 5 of them, how does it work? Who makes it work? And similarly, chakshuhu shrotram kau devo yunakti. How does united by whom? By which effulgent principle? Kaha devaha. So deva comes from div. So the div means to be conscious. Because the questioner can easily see that my eyes are conscious, my ears are conscious, my mind is conscious, my prana is conscious. So there is some consciousness that seems to be powering each one of these appliances, sub-appliances if you may. Who is that? Yeah, this begin the whole Upanishad with this bhava, with this principle, this concept. And so the teacher replies to it and he says, Shrotra, number 2, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, Yat Vachoha Vacham, Sa Upranasya Pranaha, Chakshushascha Chakshuhu, Atimuchya Dhiraha Pretya Asmat Lokat Amrita Bhavanti. So he replies to it by saying, if you can see this, if you can see the nature of the conscious entity that is powering all of these sub-appliances, as I am now going to describe to you, you're done. You will be, you not will be, you are free. That will be the blessing for you. You know, it's interesting, not interesting, but I just remembered something that I thought I would interject at this point. So, one of our students of these classes, and has been with us for a long time, I won't name the person, recently sent me an email saying that a new medical condition has occurred to me, has happened to me, where I'm not able to see things properly, and I'm not able to read, and I'm not able to function as I want to do, and this has been very, very upsetting to me. I don't know what the future is. I'm still talking to the doctors and so on, but I just want to let you know, and I want your blessings. This is how this short email ended. I want your blessings. And, so it's really upsetting to me that a dear student of mine is getting this kind of a medical issue and so on. And I wrote back to him after a little bit of thinking. And I thought about to myself, and that is that of course my best wishes are to him, my prayers are with him, but how can I bless him? What does my blessing mean? And quite honestly, I have been reading up a lot on this. I've been reading Sri Rudram in much more detail and intensity. And one of the things I resolved about, this happened about a month back, because I go through in the morning, I have a routine of really focusing on something. And what I wanted to do was that each of the Sanskrit words used in Rudram, I want to remember the meaning in my head. Some of them I do, but many of them I don't. I have to read the meaning, and I don't want that. I want that meaning to be as though it is my own language. So, for example, I made a habit of it. I'm writing down the words in Sanskrit and the English, and every one day in the morning, I write down one anuvaka. So as you know, there are 10 anuvakas. They are 10 or sometimes even 11. You can look at it. 10 is a long one with two sub anuvakas. So 10 chapters. So each Anuvaka is consisting of so many. So for example, in Anuvaka number 1, Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya Namaste Rudramanyava Utota Ishave Namaha Namaste Astu Dhanvane Bahubhyam Utate Namaha, etc. etc. This is number 1. And the last one is number 15. Parite dhanvano hetirasman vinaktu vishvataha athoya ishudistavare asman nidhehitam. Number 15, Anuvaka is gone. So each day I write down the words of each Anuvaka, and this is best given in this book by Swami Dayananji, which was composed with the help of one of my Guru Bhais, Guru Bahens, Swamini Pramanandaji. And so this is an important, very good, very nicely written book and so on. So this is one thing. Then I also study during the day. I just want to focus on Rudram and get a more recent, a more detailed understanding of what it is all about. Again, I think you remember I taught a class on this. But then I'm also growing. My clarity also hopefully is getting better. So I wanted to refresh it with myself, and possibly we might teach it at some point in time. So the rest of the day, I go through Swami Maheshananji's book, which is much more detailed than this one. And in my view, has much more reference to the Vedic passages. And more importantly, it is much more aparoksha than paroksha. This is more paroksha. This gives the definition of everything. But Swami Maheshananji has two segments to the Rudram. One segment is really a kind of like a translation, just like Swami Dayananji had given. And much later, he gave some public talks. And based on, just like we did with Purusha Suktam, where he didn't cover the entire Purusha Suktam verse by verse, but he went through the main segments of it and presented that as a teaching aid to you. He's done the same thing with Rudram. And so that is about 4 or 5 times the size of this book. And so during the day, whenever I have some time, I'm going through that book as well. And hopefully by the end of this, in the next 2-3 months, I'll have a better picture of the Rudra. Anyway, what I was saying, what really reminded me was in reading Swami Maheshananji's public talks, which he gave in 1975. All the dates are written there, which day he gave the talks and so on. And there was 1975. And he talks about the meaning of the word blessings. That's what reminded me of it. So let me close the loop on the student's request to say, please bless me. So I replied to him, and this is what I am communicating to you also, that my blessings can have 2 forms. Okay. One form is good wishes and prayers. And good wishes and prayers can come from any sources, any source. But the quality of good wishes and prayers depends upon the person who is giving it to you and his or her relationship to you. I remember this so well by Swami Chinmayananji. This is always has really not left my mind. He says, the blessings and prayers of your parents are the most powerful. So if you look at the power of the prayer, you see every prayer and every good wish is powerful because it's like action and reaction. You cannot do a prayer without the prayer having some effect. The question is, what kind of an effect is it going to have? How powerful that effect will be. So Swami Chinmayanand used to say that the effect of a prayer and good wishes from the parents are one of the most powerful. Why? Because it is unconditional love for you. Even your friends, your some acquaintances, if you write a letter like that to, supposing you write to some acquaintances, what will their feeling would be? Okay, good, 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 good. My prayers are with you, and then you don't have much thought about it because, people will say, well, I have the same problem. Nobody's praying for me, so I'll give the best I can, but I don't. This is not a very powerful prayer. But if a person really sits down and says, wow, this is a very, very limiting medical issue, and I give my best to him, there is some power to that. So, out of friends and relatives and so on, the power increases, and the blessings from the parents becomes very much more powerful because the intensity of their love, and also they don't want anything back from you, relatively speaking. Even there also there is some agenda because I want my children to be healthy because they might take care of me when I'm going old. So that also limits the power of their prayer. Anyway, all I wanted to say was that all prayers and good wishes are one form of the blessing. And who gives it? It all depends on that person. And it is said very rightly so that the blessings and the good wishes and prayers of a guru are very powerful. In fact, perhaps more powerful than your parents. And the reason for that is that if you have found a teacher who doesn't want anything back from you, has no agenda, he doesn't want any popularity, doesn't want any money, doesn't want you to keep on clinging to that harm person. No desire whatsoever. It's a pure teaching with nothing asked in return. Then the blessings and good wishes do have some power. But on this first form of the blessing, it is already put into a queue because each one of us has a lot of negative actions and positive actions, punya and papa, that are waiting to fructify. And some prayers and good wishes can cancel some of the papas. Yes, it's possible, but cannot completely. Why? Because there are so many of them, and only Ishvara knows how effective that would be. But every prayer is effective, no doubt about it. Even a prayer by a doctor, the doctor's work is in prayer. So everything is important, no doubt about it, but not totally. Okay? So this is the first form of the blessings of a teacher, of a guru. The second form is the real one. And the second form is the teaching. So the second form is where the teacher is simply a mouthpiece of Ishvara, a mouthpiece of Vedantic teaching. And there the teaching is the real blessing. And the teacher can say, listen, I can only help you in the first part partially, but I can help you to understand the second part totally. And that is the Atma is not affected by eyesight. So, along with your prayers that yes, you do have to use your eyesight or any other medical problem that one is done with, you have to use it and so on. It's not easy to say that I am completely free of it and so on. It becomes a nuisance more than a huge problem. It becomes a nuisance. Yeah, so you're not able to see very well, so you have to readjust and so on. But this actually is in some ways is an invitation to speed up the understanding that you mean I am unaffected by that? I am pure consciousness? It is exactly like in the example that we were seeing earlier, that the electricity is not affected by a breakdown in the appliance. As long as the electricity has this false notion that the appliance and I are really one, are all joined at the hip together. And if something goes wrong with the appliance, that really affects me because we are joined at the hip together. Because really speaking, the light of this lamp is a combination of the electricity and the appliance. So it is okay to see that they are together, but not really. It was good as long as it lasted, but doesn't matter. Electricity can go someplace else, and does. So that is the real blessing. And so I would suggest to anyone that anytime we should just hasten. Wasn't there a book? I think this was Swami Chinmayan's book, if it is, suddenly comes to my mind. It's called Hasten Slowly. It is so old that I am really vague whether it was written by Swami Chinmayanji or Swami Dayananji. It's called Hasten Slowly. I don't remember the contents of it, but the title comes back to me. And he says, let the problems in your life become an invitation for you to expedite the understanding that you are not affected by it. That is the real blessing. And whether I am capable of giving that blessing or not, I don't know. I'm doing the best I can, as much as I can, communicating my own experiences. And it is for you, each one of you, to take that as a potential blessing and make that into a real blessing. So to summarize that part of it, the first form of the blessing is limited by the mutual limitations of I can give you as powerful a prayer as I can, but it has to be has to be evaluated in terms of all the other vasanas and things that are going on in your life, and only Ishvara will give you the karma phala. And the second type of blessing in which you're completely freed. It's like you're waking up from the dream at whatsoever. Whatever happens in the dream doesn't matter at all. Anyway, so I just thought that I will talk about that. In fact, one of the things that I will, I'll just mention this now. This is an important thing that we will have to do it some other time. So in the Rudram, I know this because Swami Maheshananji has made this into a central point of his very big thick. He goes back again and again, giving examples to the public and explains it so well that it becomes like the central theme. He's not even departing from it. He's almost like 2/3 into the book. I don't know how long he's going to finish. But that is all by this mantra number 5 and 6 of the first Anuvaka. Shive navachasa tvagirisha chavadamasi yatha nasarvamit jagad jagad yakshmagum sumana asat. Then adhyavochatadhivakta pratamo daivyo bhishak ahigumscha sarva an jambayant sarva ashtayatu dhanya. Oh my God, he has just glommed onto these two very important mantras, starting with Shivena Vachasa and ending with Ahigumscha Sarvan Jambayant Sarvashcha Dhayatu Dhanya. And here the main thing that he's focused on is this word called Adhyavochatadhivakta. So there's not enough time in this class to go into this. I will go into this in some other time. And so that's what really triggered my thinking about the blessings. And that's what triggered the second verse that we were doing. And it says, Shivena Vachasa. That's by the words of Shiva. Paramatma Shiva alone. And Adhyavochatati Vakta. Beautiful. What a lovely explanation by Swami Maheshananji. So there, very briefly, he says, if Vakta means the one who is talking, one who gives you this instruction. Adhivakta means not an ordinary Vakta. Why is it not an ordinary Vakta? Because this cannot be described by anyone other than Shiva himself. This is Shiva's creation. The whole cosmos is a creation of Shiva. Shiva and Brahman and Ishvara are the one and the same. You cannot have an appliance within the creation describe the freedom from appliances. You cannot do that. That's why human beings are not capable of understanding by themselves. And human beings are vaktas. They talk about small things here and there, particles and medical advices, this, that, or the other. But a complete freedom can only be given by someone who is free of all of the limitations, which is Shiva, the very creator. Shivena Vachasa. We'll go into this. It's called Adhivakta. And that is the blessing. Not the local blessing by someone. That has some value, but not nearly as Shivena Vachasa. this is what this verse is saying really. He says, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manaha Vachoha Vacham Sava Pranasya Pranaha Chakshushasya Chakshu Atimuchya Dhiraha Pretya Asmat Lokat Amrita Bhavanti. He says, if you can get this, you're free. This is the Karya Karana Bhava that so here the word dhiraha comes. Very important word. Chakshushasya chakshu atimuchya dhiraha. So here Swami Paramarthananda is the discriminative person who know the self. Yeah. And the dhiraha has two aspects to it. One is discrimination, but the other aspect of dhiraha is courage. Courage, strength, not just the viveka. So viveka and vairagya both. We must have the courage to give up the fascination of the world. First we need to have the viveka. Why should I give it up? That's not clear to me. Things are attracted to me, this, that, or the other. Why should I give it up? You need to understand why to give it up. And then even if you have some glimpses into it, you need to follow through with the convictions of yourself that yes, I will do this. So this is the characteristics of the dhira. Anyway, I think I will close the class with that. Did I leave my laptop away one more time? I think I did. I'll be absent for just a minute. I'll be right back. Let me get the laptop from the other room. And let me say a prayer, then we will see if you had any questions. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, let's see. Darshana, Sudha, Arvind, Srinivasan, Hila, Panna, Suvarna, Surendra, Gaurang Krishnamurti, Madhavadas. Still not sure about Madhavadas. If you can send me some information or just get my memory start having Keshav Chopra, Mary Penn, Maithili Ramakrishna, Umid Chopra, Zarina, Kalpana, Subroto, Shankar, Satish Chalota, Sulochana, Sulekha, Virendra Singh, Ganesan, Balamani, Carol Tonelli, Sam Dillon, Larry Lopez, SK. I have to remember what SK, who SK is. Natalya, good. Question by Balamani. Krishna Birru, Chandradulam, good. So nice to see you all after so long. Balamani, is it true group prayers, meditation rewards or brings God's blessings quickly? His blessing means for human good wishes. Please excuse me if the above is not true. No, really all prayers done are effective. And if it is done with focus and having a group doing it together, then it becomes more powerful, no doubt about it. So all prayers have, as I was talking about that earlier in the class, all prayers and blessings are useful up to a certain point. So you have to do your best, but then hope. You have to temper your expectations because there could be a lot of karmas that are hanging in there that are blocking the effect of your prayers. We don't know. And so, in fact, in our Shastra, the prarabdha karma also has different strengths. So one is called, I forget the name of it, they have three main segments. So one is called prabala karma. Prabala karma means that they are, like for example, very serious disease like cancer is a prabala karma. Prabala prarabdha rather, not karma, but prarabdha. Very difficult to dislodge it. You can maybe prolong your life and so on. Then there are middling prarabdhas that can be solved. And there are easier prarabdhas that can be helped by prayers. So it all depends on where the prarabdha is. And so certainly all prayers are very helpful, no doubt about it. But how effective they are all depends on the context. Madhava, sorry, I don't remember you. Now I remember you did send me an email earlier. Thank you. Jaya Chaudhary, new name, different name. Anyway, very nice to have you all. I certainly miss teaching if I'm not there. If the class is not there, I miss it also. So it is not just for you. This is mutually beneficial to me. And I like to talk about these things in the class. So very happy we're back together. And if there are no other questions, then I will look forward to seeing you next week. Om.